A very good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Symposium on Multi-Stakeholders Engagement in Forest Protected Area Governance for Conservation and Livelihoods. Today, we have a list of amazing speakers that will speak about community-based forest protected areas management and livelihoods improvement. That's going to happen on both fourth and fifth sessions. So I really do encourage you to join both sessions to get the full scope of this topic. Now, since the 1970s, there have been substantial progress towards community-based forest protected areas management with the aim of conservation and improvement of local communities. A large portion of forest protected areas are now being managed through community-based management. Today, we're going to present many papers that discuss the importance of community engagement for conservation and livelihoods. Ladies and gentlemen, as per usual, after all the speakers have presented, there will be a live Q&A segment at the end of the session. So kindly pose your questions on the platform and our speakers will try to answer all of them if time permits. Submit your questions via the question box on the platform. If you don't see it, if you don't see the box, please do refresh the page and I'm sure you will see the question box popping up, okay? Now let's get started. Moderating this session will be our chairperson, Dr. Wong Ipin, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Science at University of Nottingham, Malaysia. She is also Principal Investigator of Management and Ecology of Malaysian Elephants. She has been working in the wildlife conservation field for close to 2 decades and has experience engaging with local communities in both Malay and indigenous villages in the states of Terengganu, Johor, and Perak in Malaysia. Currently, she's also engaging with the plantation and agricultural communities to manage human-elephant conflict. Please give me and Dr. Wong Ipin a real warm welcome. Over to you, Dr. Wong.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Welcome everyone to the session 4, Community-Based Forest Protected Areas Management and Livelihood Improvement. So this is an event organized by Malaysian Nature Society and University of Nottingham, Malaysia, as part of the International Green Tech and Eco Products Exhibition and Conference Malaysia. Today, we have 6 very interesting presentations from respected speakers from India, Sri Lanka, Philippines, and Malaysia. They'll be showcasing their work with the local communities. So please stay tuned. So the presentation format will be, each speaker will have about 10 to 15 minutes to present their work. I will give a gentle reminder at 10-minute point. At the end of the presentation, we have a round of Q&A and discussion about the topic. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our first speaker of the session, Mr. Pervez Manan. Mr. Pervez Manan possesses 2 Master of Science degrees, Master of Science Forestry and Masters of Environmental Science. He has diverse and wide knowledge accumulated over 13 years working with the government and international organizations in the field of forestry and environment. So if you are able to see Mr. Pervez Manan's description, you can see he has diverse experience in project organizing, planning, and management in the field of forestry, sustainable development, and livelihoods development. His experience includes application and internalization and cross-cutting teams of climate change adaptation, REDD+, disaster risk reduction, gender and social protection. Yes, very experienced. So currently he's presently engaged as National Forest Inventory Expert in Pakistan's REDD+ Readiness Preparation Project with the government of Pakistan, Ministry of Climate Change to enable Pakistan compliance with the Cocoon Agreement decisions. So over to you, Mr. Pervez Manan. Looking forward to see your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. Thank you, Dr. Wong and the organizers of this important symposium. Hello to all the participants and the listeners, the audience. My introduction has already been done by the chairperson. I will straight away go to the presentation. My research was study on economic benefits from eucalyptus plantations to the local communities of district Malakand, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province of Pakistan. Actually, most of us knows that eucalyptus is the most widely propagated tree species throughout the world due to its adaptability to site types of management system, multi-purpose uses, and fast-growing nature. It was first introduced in Indian subcontinent as early as 1790. Eucalyptus was given immense importance in large-scale afforestation, especially in social forestry, watershed management, irrigated plantation, and agroforestry programs throughout Pakistan during the 70s and early 80s of the last century. It has been tied up to 2,200 meter altitude with an annual rainfall range of 400 to 4,000 millimeter and can grow in wide variety of soil conditions, but for best growth, deep, fertile, and well-drained loamy soil is required. In district Malakand, eucalyptus mass plantations were first carried out under the Malakand Gir Social Forestry Project in the early 1980s. And since then, it is the choice of the communities due to its frequent returns. As there are no proper documentation or research exists on the economic benefits to the communities from eucalyptus plantation in Malakand, that is why the study was conducted. A brief description of the study area. Malakand is a district of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province of Pakistan. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa was earlier termed as Northwest Frontier province of Pakistan. The total area is about 952 square kilometers, having a population of 7,20,295 persons with 91,414 households. According to government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Forest Department, 15% of Malakand is under forest. This is the location map. Methods. A relevant record of the divisional forest officer Malakand was reviewed and information about extent of eucalyptus plantations, year of planting, cost, labor engaged in planting, registration of village organization, and their subsequent renewals and progress reports submitted to DFO's office was reviewed. In order to have more accurate and precise results, 56 plantation sites raised on communal lands throughout the district were selected based on the availability of sale and harvesting records and compactness of the plantations. 6 focus group discussion sessions were held with the members of 37 village organizations, where the communities were organized. One session consisted of representatives from 7 village organizations, while the rest 5 sessions consisted of representatives from 6 village organizations. Their available record regarding meeting sales of plantation, etc. was also reviewed, and information about pre-plantation condition and benefits, years of harvesting, generated monetary benefit, etc. were gathered. For plantation sites where no village organizations were existent, key informants who were well acquainted with identified with the help of local forest department officials and were interviewed to gather information. A total of 19 key informants were interviewed. Based on the record of the Malakand and village organizations, the status of village organization was ranked as strong, village organization, moderate, and non-existent. Strong were those which were registered with Forest Department and they renewed their registration timely, have proper office bearers. Bearers actively meet, share their progress reports and minutes of meeting and Forest Department activities. While moderate village organizations were those which were registered with the department, renew its registration timely, have proper office bearer, but meet occasionally share their progress reports, minutes of the meetings with Forest Department and occasionally participate in Forest Department activities. While non-existing views were those which were registered one time with Forest Department, but then they defunct or never registered with Forest Department, do not have any proper office bearers and records. A meeting was convened at the DFO Malakand office with the wood contractors to obtain information about per acre yield of eucalyptus, their profit margin, sale markets and uses. For rate determination and sale procedure, a local market survey was also conducted. Data was grouped on the basis of status of village organization into 3 groups. Each group was further subcategorized on the basis of same year of planting and same year of harvesting. For comparison of productivity, data of subgroup of each group of the same year were compared. Impacts of village organizations on productivity were assessed on the basis of monetary returns from the plantations. For comparison of returns to the communities from harvesting and its market value, data of those plantations which were harvested in 2018 were used, as market rates for earlier years were not available. These are some pictorial glimpses of the meetings. Okay, results. Overall condition of the area before and after plantation. Before plantations, during group discussions and this and the informant interviews, all the participants were of the opinion that the areas were either completely barren or having scattered grasses patches. The lip was hideous. Soil erosion, landsliding, and flooding were common, particularly in rainy seasons. The local community were not getting any financial benefits from these sites except for free grazing. Even for firewood, the inhabitants were dependent on other areas. After plantation, the sites were restored to lush green forest, abundant in grasses and fodder, whereas erosion and flood hazard considerably decreased, grass production and other fodder increased. The overall environment improved. Their firewood needs were also fulfilled and were no more dependent on other areas. The firewood that is used for household consumption was not monetized, but the respondent considered that it has significant impact on local community. Total cost. This table shows cost and anchored on the pricing of these plantation. If we see that total area of these plantation was 19,854 acres. Plant cost on raising of plants was 4.32 billion Pakistani rupees. Planting cost was 45 million. Maintenance cost was 30 million and total expenditure was 79.37 million. Per acre cost was 3,998 overall. Okay, now return from harvesting, returns and income. Return from harvesting was 2,420, 2 million. Labor and harvesting was 242 million. Other returns was 9.2 million. But total return was 267 million, while total average income per acre was Pakistani rupees 13,455. Whereas total income after deduction of the expenditure was 187 million, and average income per acre was 9,458 per acre. Total return per acre. Yes.
You have 5 minutes left, Mr. Purvis.
Okay. Total return per acre are almost 3 times more than the cost per acre. If we see return per acre is 13,455 and cost per acre is 3,998 Pakistani rupees. Similarly, net income per acre is more than double of the cost per acre. Net is 9,458 and the cost per acre is 3,998 Pakistani rupees. Okay. Productivity. Okay, for the productivity as illustrated in the table in front of you. If we see for the plantation raised in the 2000 and harvesting in 2008, the plantation which were under strong village organization, you can see that average return was 36,139, while cost was 3,998. Similarly, if we see the average return for the, it is being written weak, but actually the weak one, it is a typo, it is moderate. For the moderate, it is 9,921, while for the non-existent village organization, it is 105,093. While the net income, if we see the almost in all the years, that 2008, 10, 16, and 18, in all the years, you can see that the average net income of the non-existent village organizations, a plantation under the non-existent village organization, is a negative, while that of moderate and strong are very much high as compared to the cost per acre. Okay, this table shows the what the communities are getting from the harvesting of this plantation and what is the actual market value. If we look into the comparison, average return per acre to the community from the harvesting is 10,188 Pakistani rupees, whereas as per average market value per acre, it is almost 35,000 Pakistani rupees per acre. So average return is only 29% of the market value. See the difference here, 10,000 against 35,000. Okay, during the following main uses were identified, which are elaborated in this table. wood industry, eucalyptus uses 20% of the eucalyptus is used in composite wood industry, 20% as a fuel wood for tobacco industry, and 20% for ghee and steel mills. Similarly, domestic firewood is 15%, construction is 10%, furniture industry is 10%, boat industry, mining industry, etc. 5%. Here we can see the main use is fuel wood, firewood. Almost 55% is fuel wood or firewood. Conclusion. The conclusion drawn from this research is eucalyptus has uplifted the economy of the local community and has gained the position of main income generating crop. Overall, the plantation has changed the non-productive barren lands and health. And the study further confirms that eucalyptus has significantly decreased the chances of erosion and flooding in the area. It has proved as a low cost with high profit return cash crop for the local communities, with a return of about 3 times greater than the investment. These plantations have also fulfilled the firewood requirements of local communities, which discarded their dependency on other areas. This community organization has a key role in the productivities of this plantation, because in the plantation area where the communities were well organized in the form of village organization were more productive as compared to the areas lacking community organization. The study reflects that communities are getting much less, only 29% of them. The study found eucalyptus as a major fuel wood source for tobacco and other industries in the surrounding and one of the main domestic firewood source. The study also found that eucalyptus is a major raw material for composite wood industry. Based on the finding, it is recommended that focus on organization and reorganization of village community is required to enhance the productivity of the plantation areas. Capacity building of the community is required on marketing and value chain management, and establishment of composite wood and paper industries will suit the area as plenty of raw materials are available. It will not only enhance income from the eucalyptus plantation, but will also create job opportunities for the local people.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Pervez Manan.
Thank you.
One wonderful presentation and a fantastic case study. I just have a quick question for you, if you don't mind. Yeah, it sounds like the eucalyptus plantation program specifically target barren areas. And what's the rationale behind that? Were the ecosystem services part of the original aim, or is this a pleasant unintended outcome?
Actually, that's in 1980s. It was introduced. The main function or the main objective when it was to reduce pressure on the natural forests.
I see. Very good.
The main theme was to reduce pressure on the natural forest, and it was intended at that time that a paper industry and composite wood-based industries will be established in down districts, and there were actually another point was the control of soil erosion, etc., for the watershed management purposes. That is why the main target was the barren lands, and the other point was that the forest department didn't wanted to plant eucalyptus in the already blank forest to disturb the ecosystem. was also a point.
Okay, then it's very good that the community gets some income and they also enjoy the ecosystem services. So thank you so much, Mr. Purismanan. So let's move on to our next speaker of the day, Dr. Indika Rohan Palihakara. Unfortunately, Dr. Indika Rohan is recovering from COVID-19 and is in the hospital. So he's not able to join us in person today, but his colleague, Ms. Manisha Kalpani, has helped to record a session for Dr. Indika Rohan. So let me just briefly introduce Dr. Indika Rohan Palihakara. He's a senior lecturer attached to the Department of Crop Science, Faculty of Agriculture, University of Ruhuna. He completed his PhD in 2015 from the University of Tokyo, Japan. His fields of interest are environmental science, forestry, and plantation crops. He has wrote 7 books and has more than 10 index journal publications and 55 other scientific publications. So Dr. Palihakara is also the coordinator for UNIDO Ruhuna Bamboo Project and worked as the Sri Lankan representative of the RCJ Japan. He's the founder president of U Tokyo Alumni Association Sri Lanka chapter and continued his service until now. And briefly about his colleague, Ms. K.L. Manisha Kalpani. She's a graduate from the Agriculture Resource Management and Technology from the Faculty of Agriculture at University of Ruhana. She won the gold medal, congratulations to you. And currently she's working in the Department of Crop Science, Faculty of Agriculture in University of Ruhana, and also a trainee in the Departments of Genetics and Plant Breeding, Rubber Research Institute of Sri Lanka. So let's have the video that Ms. Manisha has prepared for us, and let's share it with the audience. Thank you.
Situation for spreading of infectious diseases for people all over the world has been recorded throughout the history. Although treatment for those have been identified with time, people's attitudes toward the infected person still remain unchanged. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's see the case study in Sri Lanka about the possibilities, threats, and opportunities for livelihood improvement of the people compelled to settle inside the Sinharada forest. First of all, I would like to talk about the Sinharada forest and leprosy, because this is study mainly based on the people who have the history of leprosy live around the Sinharada forest area. Sinharada forest is the largest viable area of primary tropical undisturbed rainforest in Sri Lanka. It is the world's 25th biodiversity hotspot. The most important thing is, in 1989, UNESCO included the Sinharada forest in the World Heritage List as the first national heritage of Sri Lanka. Sinharada forest is situated in the southwest lowland wet zone of Sri Lanka. It is bordering 3 districts and covering an area of 8,864 hectares. This map shows where the Sinharada forest is situated, and this map shows the areas of the Sinharada rainforest. Sinharada is the home to endemic rare floral species in Sri Lanka. Out of endemic floral species in Sri Lanka, 64% can be identified in the Sinharada. Not only the flora, it is the home to endemic fauna species also. Out of endemic bird species in Sri Lanka, 95% can be identified in Sinharada, and also greater than 50% endemic mammals and butterflies are in the Sinharada forest area. The other thing is the lands around the Sinharada. There are 2 types of land around the Sinharada forest area that are privately owned land and LRC land. Around 400 hectares of such privately owned land can be identified around the Sinharaja forest. This picture shows some lands which are around the Sinharaja. When talk about the leprosy, it is the chronic infectious disease affecting the skin and peripheral nerves. It is transmitted from human to human. There is no known deceiver or vector. That's why leprosy can be identified as a monster disease. A major issue associated with leprosy is the development of disabilities leading to loss of productivity and social stigma. But the disabilities could be prevented by early detection and treatment. Unfortunately, millions of people are affected by leprosy all over the world. Sri Lanka also had to face this unfortunate situation, and they have taken different control methods. In Sri Lanka, leprosy patients were colonized in Sinharaja rainforest. This case study also based on the people who have the leprosy history and live around the Sinharaja. Let's see how this case study was carried out and what are the findings. A questionnaire survey was conducted in 2018 September to 2019 February with the 45 families who have leprosy history. 125 individuals were taken within that 45 families. Let's talk about the findings. The main income of that families is the tea farming, but the most families about 78%, out of 45 families have less than 1 acre land, so their monthly income is 4,650 rupees only. Actually, only 70% people have 1 to 2 acre land and 5% have more than 2 acre lands. In addition to that, 45% people work as labor and 10% are work as tree tappers in tractor industry. This chart shows the relationship with the main income and additional income. When consider about that, the people who have more than 1 acre land are not moved to the additional income. But only the people who have less than 1 acre land move to the additional income. They work as a labor and people. So the people who work as the labor earn 4,000 rupees per month, and the people who are work as a trickle industry earn 9,500 rupees per month as the additional income. Although they haven't leprosy at the present, they have a history of leprosy. So that families have to face different problems. Because even though leprosy becomes easily diagnosable treatable disease, at the present, the social negative attitudes are not seen. Due to this, that people have to face problems when find a job. This chart shows the willing to offering job for them. When talk about that, we can see young and old females don't like to offer job for them when it comes to the male. But the male attitudes are different from them. They like to offer jobs that people than female. But the young people owner have positive attitude for that people than the old people. Finally, we can conclude that older generation is still not willing to offer jobs for them on tea-related work, pickle tapping, and other sundry work compared to young generation. And higher percentage of small lands owners of this study sample getting marginal income for their survival. And finally, we can suggest that the government and society intervention is needed for improve their livelihood and create income generation. This is the end of our presentation. So we would like to thank all the people who helped to success this task, and especially we would like to offer our heartiest gratitude for Nottingham University for giving this valuable opportunity for us. Thank you very much.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Wow, that was an interesting video. And fortunately, we managed to have Dr. Palihakara and also Ms. Manisha with us today for some Q&A sessions. So if you have questions, please stay tuned. We will ask them towards the end of the session. Okay. Dr. Palihakara, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you mind me asking you one question before we move to the next speaker? How are you feeling? I hope you are better, getting better now.
I couldn't.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm, in a bed rest, and I'm in the bed. It's okay. Can speak.
Yeah, we heard that. Yeah, you are recovering from COVID-19. So I hope you have a smooth recovery. Yeah. A very interesting study you have. It sounds like the families with less than 1 acre of land for tea farming may need to depend on additional income. Do you feel programs with larger plantations surrounding the Sinharaja forests can help to reduce the stigma around the leprosy community and help encourage more job opportunities? Well, let's have your take on that.
Actually, I couldn't hear clearly in your voice. Hello?
Yes,
I cannot hear clear.
You cannot hear. Okay, let me.
The question, it's not clear for me.
Okay, let me rephrase the questions. How do you think would be the best way to increase job opportunities for the leprosy community around Sinharaja Forest?
Yeah, there are some families already established in 1960s, and they are already, separated from the other people, and that's how their community is being established inside and the outer circle of the Sinharaja forest. So these people now, they are, expanding, and then they are, mixed with the other communities, and still they have some type of social problem. Some people they are not willing to offer some work, and that's why they are actually not 100%, but somehow they are handicapped people.
So just to follow up with on that, do you think the plantation job requirements will be harsh for the community? Because is it labor intensive? Okay, never mind. Let's keep the question for the next session. Let's move on to the next speaker.
Okay.
Yes. So the next speaker we have is Mr. Joel G. Carrick, and he's from Philippines. So Mr. Joel Carrick is a registered forester and is currently connected with the Quirino State University in different Quirino, Philippines. He's working at the Forestry Department of QSG and teaches forest governance, forest surveying, and dendrology. His research interests include community forestry, forest farming system, forest assessment, clonal propagation of various tree species, and climate change. So Mr. Joel has recorded his presentation for us. So let's view his presentation now.
Good day to everyone. The title of my presentation is Sustainable Watershed Management Project of Quirino, Philippines. This is a 3 years project funded by the Forest Foundation Philippines. My name is Joel G. Carig, and I am a faculty of the Quirino State University. Quirino Province is located within the central Sierra Madre mountain range, ranked as the number 17 in the PBCP projects for terrestrial and inland water areas and categories as extremely high critical in terms of biological importance. However, despite being an EHC, the vast tract of forest areas are already occupied by forest communities doing livelihood activities that threaten the integrity of the remaining forest to provide environmental services. According to the Quirino Forest Land Management Plan of 2008, the natural forest cover loss between the period 1988 to 2003 has reached as high as 6,596 hectares or 440 hectares annually. And because of the success of an earlier UNDP SGP funded project titled Reach to River Management of Natural Resources, a showcase project for watershed management and biodiversity conservation in Quirino, this project was conceptualized to scale up the best practices and lessons learned and to facilitate a change in the mindset of forest communities and to be able to engage them in forest protection and development activities. For the project framework, sustainable community watershed are those that can provide for services to ensure human welfare. For example, drinking water, irrigation water, and other services such as clean air, including also aesthetic value. Since most watersheds are already occupied by communities, their participation in ensuring sustainable watershed have been very crucial. To mobilize both the local communities and LGUs to work together for sustainable watershed management, it is important to provide them with activities like information and education campaign, as well as seminars and trainings to enhance their knowledge and awareness on various environmental laws to enable them to enact and implement ordinances. Both LGUs and POs could be mobilized to undertake forest protection and development activities, and their combined efforts could eventually lead to sustainable community watersheds. The overall objective of the project is to mobilize tenure holders or organized POs and the respective barangay local government units to undertake sustainable watershed management activities to ensure the provision of continuous goods and services. Specifically, the project aims to institutionalize collaborative partnership among stakeholders for project implementation, enactment and implementation of barangay ordinances declaring remaining forests as community watershed areas, and conduct forest protection and physical development activities within the declared community watershed areas to improve forest cover and initiate wildlife connectivity. For the methodology, we use transparent accountability and participatory through institutionalization of collaborative partnership, provision of decision support tools through IEC or SEPA, inter-LGUs, POs consultation meetings and interactions, and provision of innovative approach that support economic productivity, environmental protection, and capacity building. For the highlights of accomplishment, for the selection of the project area, we use the following criteria: area issued with tenure or with tenure holder or organized POs operating in the area with substantial forest in the respective areas. Project area is endorsed by the DNR and municipal LGU concerned with supportive barangay LGU willing to enact local ordinances and willing to develop at least 6 hectares of their area as rainforestation farms using native trees. For the objective number 1, institutionalization of collaborative partnership among stakeholders, one partnership agreement was signed by 35 stakeholders, and a regular meeting for updating is done. For the second objective, enactment and implementation of barangay ordinance declaring remaining forests as community watersheds. Enactment of barangay ordinance, then conduct 10 meetings conducted, then 10 public hearing conducted, and surveying mapping of about 6,761 hectares surveying map. For forest patrolling through lawing system, 60 POs members identified, and all of them were given an equipment. And for capacity building, environmental governance training, we have conducted 2 batches, paralegal and lawing training, 1 training, and environmental laws enforcement and training, 1 training being conducted. For the objective number 2, conduct protection and physical development activities within the declared community watershed. 4 on-the-job training on rainforestation farming technology conducted, 12 MOA signed with partner POs, 12 nurseries constructed with 87,145 assorted forestry seedlings produced, enrichment planting with 78 hectares of the declared community watersheds, and currently the survival rate of planted seedling is about 84.19%, which is equivalent to 73,668 seedlings survived. For the challenges, the continuous hot weather in the province continuously put threat on the established reforestation areas of POs, since burning remained a major form of clearing Sweden farms prior to planting. Delayed issuance of funding also. So with the delayed release of funds, some major activities were put on hold to prioritize weather-related activities like seedling production and planting to ensure that this will be accomplished before the rainy seasons are over. The declaration of the different quarantine classification affected project implementation. While project staff expected some easing of restriction, group activities remain controlled. Civil Service Commission in issuance gave option for faculty to avail of the work from home arrangement to control community transmission of COVID-19. For the conclusion and lesson learned from the project, participation of local government units in watershed management is high if they understand their roles and responsibilities. The positive response of LGU officials on enacting watershed ordinance is proof of this. To enjoin their participation, orientation and training on the different environmental laws and exposure to other successful projects is important. Involvement and influence of barangay leaders facilitates completion of work and activities, hence the participation in programs and activities of POs should always be solicited. Community residents support and participate in sustainable watershed management activities if they too understand the roles and responsibilities as well as the future implication of the initiatives on the lives and welfare of current and future generations. Continuous information, education, and communication on environment and natural resources with communities, even in informal gathering, create awareness and change in behavior. Although changing values and attitudes could not be achieved overnight, in the end, the reward is great. For the project sustainability or way forward, the project turnover to the Forestry Department of the University for the continuous provision of technical assistance and resource generation. Close collaboration with the Municipal Environment and Natural Resources Office of the four municipalities for provision of technical assistance and inclusion of funding for forest protection and maintenance of established tree plantation in their annual investment plans. Networking and linking with funding agencies for the continuous generation of resources that can be used by DPOs. Thank you for listening. That's all.
Wow, that was a very interesting case study. It's so good to see local communities taking up ownership and carrying out reforestation and survey activities. So moving on to our next speaker, we have another interesting case study from Dr. Huda Farhana Muhammad Muslim. Yep, Dr. Huda is our next speaker. She has been in the field of research for ecotourism since 2005. Currently, she's working as the research officer on the Social Forestry Program in Forest Research Institute Malaysia, FRIM. She graduated from Tokyo Metropolitan University in Japan 2017 with a PhD in tourism science. Previously, she did her Master of Science in Tourism Management from University of Technology, Maram, Malaysia. And before that, she did her Bachelor of Forest Science from University Putra, Malaysia. Her research passion is in human dimension, especially on the local attitudes, nature-based tourism, urban environmental, and local community participation. So let's welcome Dr. Huda. Over to you now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, Dr. Wong Ifin, for the very kind introductions. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to the chairperson, speakers, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. From Philippines, this afternoon, I will bring all of you virtually experience the natural beauty of Ulu Tampit Waterfall in Kampung Janda Baik, Pahang. So I am Huda Farhana Muhammad Muslim from Forest Research Institute Malaysia FRIM, and I am excited to share with all of you with this talk afternoon entitled Ecotourism as the Mechanism for Environmental Conservation and Local Socio-Economic Development in the Peninsula Malaysia. So with two next slides. Next slides, okay. Okay, so next we move to the outline of my sharing talk, and it will be begin with the principles of ecotourism until the way forward of this research. Next. Okay, next. So the ecotourism has been defined from the International Ecotourism Society 2015, and it is called as a responsible travel to the natural areas that conserve the environment, sustain the well-being of the local people, and it should involve an interpretation and also education. Ecotourism is about uniting the conservation, communities, and sustainable travel. So this means it should have these 5 main core elements of the ecotourism: economic benefit, environmental protection, community empowerment, cultural acceptance, and also educations. Next. So basically, these 5 main core in ecotourism will also be applied to the community-based ecotourism and emphasized on the empowerment of these tourists as demand sides and also local people as the supply sides. So these two, demand and supply side, will also influence the socio-economic development of the local people, and also with the mission to provide poverty reduction and also conservation. And the most important factor is destination in the tourism sites, whether in the tourist attraction destination, rural, or even in the remote areas. So this research will investigate the potential of ecotourism, which indirectly promote environmental conservation. And in other way, it directly create an economic opportunity for local communities and to increase the local communities' involvement in the management of the protected areas. Next. The researcher has applied the conservation financings for the use of nature conservation and also nature recreation services. So it will be one of the example and model to confirm the importance of community and agencies relation networking. Next. This research has been carried out at the one protected area under the management and jurisdiction of Pahang Forestry State Department in Pahang State, Peninsula Malaysia. Researcher focused to these 30 hectares or 74 acres part and partial in this forest, Lentang Forest Reserve Bentong Pahang. There is a one hidden attraction, and it has its uniqueness, including its location in high altitude. Next, within the Malay traditional community village, and the waterfall is accessible to all its 7 tiers. So various accommodations offer with multi-range of price, and also there's a unique flora and fauna for the research and education environmental. Next. Okay, FRIM Forest Research Institute Malaysia as the main technical advisor in this community-based ecotourism project has formulated a conservation financing where the locals agreed to perform a joint forest management JFM model between them as a main actor and the forestry department. So with this joint forest management model, the local community as the middleman and form as an association. And in this case also, there's a seller. The seller in this case is state government. Next. Okay, and FRIM is act as a empowerment agency to educate the locals to enhance the development of benefit sharing mechanism for the recreation services. Next. So from this model, I already basically introduce you what is the simple or basic interpretation of the conservation financing, even though the middleman as an association will be the manager of the sites, but the main owner is still on the forestry department. Next. So along this project, there's a lot of accomplishment we did with the local community. First, we talked about the conservation effort and the engagement with the livelihood. Next. So with the model of joint forest management, we have to get the positive attitude from the local community indirectly to reduce the negative impact on the nature conservation. Next. And the local community already agreed to form a formal association and registered under the Registry of Society Malaysia, or previously known as ROS, and they act as a main community committee that be the ears and also the eyes of the forestry department. Next. With the approval of the Ulu Tampik waterfall for the community-based sites, the community or association called as Sahabat Alam Tampik Janda Baik, after this I will call as Sahabat Alam Tampik, they will guide it will be the formal organizational chart and also a specific term of references. Next. So on the 16th of April last year, they have been received the formal approval for this request of 30 hectares of the waterfall to make as a main sites for a community ecotourism sites. So this is like a green light and the official permit for the local community involved in the nature conservation or services. Next. In terms of socio-economic development of the livelihood, there is the association called as Sahabat Alam Tampik provide the recreation services. Next, the main activities are trekking to Ulu Tampik waterfall and village tour for local product services such as to the fig farm, to the ATV recreation areas, and also to the Ulu Tampik waterfall trail for swimming activities. They also provide a capacity building to the corporate, government, and private agencies, including paintball or other environmental education program. Next. So this is the best part where I want to share that for the 10 months of operation, because of they started on the 27th of June 2020, and they until the April 2021, before again the enhanced MCO been applied on this 10 months, the association of Sahabat Alam Tampik about receive 67,000 ringgit or like 16,000 USD from the 1,425 visitors to their Ulu Tampik waterfall. Next. And from this also, the local community have a benefit sharing to the other local community with allowance For example, allowance for the nature guide, local administrator as a clerk, the parking fees, rental for office, and other services. So the direct income in other way to the forestry department or to the government state, they already paid about 20,000 for only the forest entrance fee, because in Malaysia, when we want to enter the forest, we have to get an official permit from the forest department. So the middleman, the association, get the permit, and the tourists or the visitors will pay to the associations. Next. So at first, we, the agency or FRIM, as the technical advisor, also made one of simple model business plan for the association. So Sahabat Alam will, in the future, are estimated to make a general income projection about 142,000 ringgit if there is no pandemic, if there is a smooth visitors or tourists came to the Ulu Tampi and as a recreation services in every month or yearly with 4,080 visitors. With other way or with other, we also calculate the total cost, including the other direct or indirect cost, is only estimation for 117,000. And for the like profit, they are estimated to get 25,000 yearly. But this is only a business plan for the first year of the Sahabat Alam Tampi. Next. So for the local community, the first main mission is to conduct or to train the nature tour guide, especially among the local community, and also we involve the junior rangers, the Tampi junior rangers. About 20 students has been trained also for the environmental education, and about 8 peoples from the local community or this association has been received their green badge nature from the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture. Next.
Dr. Huda, you have 5 more minutes.
Okay, so this is a big accomplishment that on 20 October last year, they already officially registered and has been known as one of the pioneer ecotourism association in Malaysia. Next. We have, as a technical advisor, FRIM has been conducted and achieved back-to-back series, including the stakeholder consultation, workshops, and meeting focus group discussion with the local committee and association. And also we conduct a baseline research study before we did all those workshops and also all this consultation with the stakeholder or association. Next. So total overall is about 7 training and workshop has been accomplished from 2018 until 2021. Next. So we also register the local committee to the national training and capacity building. Next. And also they involve in a lot of environmental short course and also assessment along the trail in the waterfall. Next. So the latest edition of the activity is conducted for the study tour and short course to the Pahang National Park last April 2021. We have trained this Sahabat Alam, about 10 local nature guides have been trained, and they are sharing their experience and knowledge with a batik ethnic at the Taman Negara. Next. And a part of that, we also invite a new association that we have built in other state called Sahabat Cakna Gunung Tebu Terengganu, and they came to Ulu Tampi itself to have their own experience, hands-on training on the ecotourism package and short course study tour to this Kampung Janda Baik. So next, with all those activities, we frame as a technical advisor always hope that this networking, leadership, and commitment from the association and state government also will continuously be conducted. FRIM, even for the future directions, this community-based ecotourism project will always pray to have a brighter future even in the situation of a global pandemic. It is tough and challenging for the sustainability of ecotourism. However, with a few of future directions and also future planning, especially to come up with the new attractions and packages, we hope that the local community, even the state government, will not give up with the ecotourism aspects. Next. So, Sahabat Alam Tampi also, especially the chairman, has been invited to about 2 or 3 series of workshop and also sharing knowledge on the community-based ecotourism and how they handle all these challenges and issues for about 1 year of establishment. Next. So, okay. So a part of that, there's a lot of publication that we have published on this project, even in international or in the local news. And we hope we hope that the community will have their own always positive and good patience for this community-based ecotourism projects. And finally, this project was made possible through the research grant from SIACAR, Southeast Asian Regional Center for Graduate Study and Research from Philippines, and also other Asian Swiss partnership on the social, forestry, and climate change. With that, I will end this presentation with thank you for your kind attention. Next slide. It's okay.
In good time, Dr. Huda. This is a very interesting case study, and it looks like FRIM will be busy for the next many years, establishing this kind of ecotourism project. Well done. So, because we are running out of time for presentation, so I have to move on to the next speaker. So let's save all the questions till the end. Yep. So the next speaker, we have Mr. Shah Reza Hussain. He is from the Perak State Park. He's the director of the Perak State Park Corporation. Among his portfolio, he handled a lot of protected area management, both marine and terrestrial. And currently, yes, he is establishing quite a few protected areas, yes, in Pulau Sembilan, Kintam Nature Park, and many more. So his background is an economist, but he has been working in the field of conservation for a long time. Previously, he was working with WWF Malaysia, Malaysian Nature Society, and also their Earth and Sea Observation System, a space agency. So a man with diverse experience. And without further ado, I will pass the floor to Mr. Shah Reza for him to share his experience working with the committee in Belum Temenggor.
Thank you, Ipin. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, I will share my slide. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar. I will be talking about enabling our local indigenous community in Royal Belum for conservation. So I got 10 minutes. I got to go very fast. Okay, so basically an introduction to Perak State Parks. Perak State Park look after protected areas, especially state parks. So we have Kinta Nature Park, is a wetland protected area. Royal Belum State Park, which is our crown jewel, rainforest, and Pulau Sembilan State Park, which is our marine conservation area. Besides that, we also look after geopark. So we have Kinta Valley Geopark, which is not a protected area, but nevertheless managed by Perak State Parks. And in the future, we are looking at Lenggong Geopark and the Lenggong UNESCO World Heritage Site as being under the Perak State Parks. So basically, just a brief introduction. As you see on the map on the left, the green areas are mainly the protected areas. The biggest is Taman Negara in the middle, and we are right to the north, bordering Thailand. And if you can see the map on the right, Royal Belum State Park is green in color. We border Banglang National Park and Halabala Wildlife Sanctuary in Thailand. And then we have the forest reserve to the south, Temenggung Forest Reserve, Greek Forest Reserve, Amanjaya, etc. So it is one huge contiguous forest. It's almost 500,000 acres of contiguous forest. And this is very, very important landscape for our wildlife. Okay, just a brief tour into Royal Bloom. You need to get a boat to go in. If you go in by foot, you probably need 2 or 3 days hiking. And then you'll probably meet Ipin's, Dr. Ipin's friend, our elephant. And we have beautiful sites. We have a very important and strategic ecosystem, an asset to the country and state. We are the second largest protected area in Malaysia, and also a mega biodiversity landscape. So we have 12 of the 13 large mammals in Royal Bloom. The only large mammal we don't have in Royal Bloom is the bearded pig, which is in the south of the peninsula. It is a key tiger range, and these are some of the pictures. There's a hornbill there. There are 10 species of hornbill in Malaysia. Royal Bloom has all 10. Even Sarawak only has 8. And inside Royal Bloom, we have the Jahai community Orang Asli. 99% of the community inside Royal Bloom belongs to only one tribe, which is the Jahai tribe. This is Kampung Klewang, where the project for our wildlife patrol started. Okay, and we do a lot of community-based engagement, especially projects. And when the state park looks at projects for the community, we focus on projects which is within the landscape, meaning the Orang Asli don't have to leave their village. The project is within their village vicinity or the forest adjacent to their villages. And there are 3 important aspects that we take into any projects that we do with the Orang Asli. Number 1, there must be knowledge transfer to the indigenous people. They must be able to be, they must receive training, skilling, and also relevant knowledge of the projects that they want to undertake. Number 2, they must derive income, livelihood from the projects that we undertake for them. Number 3, there must be conservation value to the projects. If any one of these 3 elements does not exist, we do not undertake the project. Conservation value is key to all our projects. So is knowledge transfer and livelihood. So just to go straight into the point today, within Royal Bloom, we have one of the most critically endangered big mammals in the world, which is the Malayan tiger. The Malayan tiger is a subspecies of the tiger and only exists in peninsular Malaysia, meaning only exists from Johor right up to the southern tip of Thailand, where Royal Bloom is. Okay, and there are less than 200 of these magnificent tigers around. The biggest threat, everybody knows, is wildlife poaching. Here you see a picture of a steel snare or a steel trap that traps the tigers like this and causes them death or serious injury. And these are some pictures of poachers being caught by the state park rangers recently. And as you can see, they are armed and they are very dangerous. So in order to strengthen and protect our wildlife, we do collaborative partnership with a lot of people. We do training with Pantera, which is the international organization for wildlife protection. And we do work with WWF and other agencies, Perhelatan, to look after our wildlife within Royal Bloom and Temenggung. This is the landscape that we work in. It's a very harsh, dangerous, and thick forest, rainforest. These are the grids that we give in terms of our patrolling, and this will tie up to what I'm going to discuss with the community later. Okay, so today I want to talk about Mendrak. And Mendrak is a collaboration with the NGO Rimau. NGO Rimau is our key funder and key project partners for this project. So this is Menrak. Menrak means people or community in the Jahai language. This is the initial group of Menrak that we formed 1.5 years ago from the village that I showed you just now. Okay, and within the community, we train the community to look into tactical forest patrolling. So after training with the state park rangers, quite intensive, then they will go in together with state park rangers to do patrolling. These are wildlife patrolling inside Royal Bloom. And this, as you can see, this is Fong and my ranger Fong with the indigenous Orang Asli. So some of the pictures of their patrolling. Okay, so this is the area that we patrolled last year with our partners WWF and Menrak. Without the Menrak, we would have probably wanted less area to patrol. And what is the result of this patrolling? This is the result of the patrolling. From hundreds of snares or traps that is set out every year, last year, we only found 5. And out of that 5, only 2 were recent snares. 3 were old snares. So meaning out of hundreds and thousands over the past 5 years, we are down to only 2 snares last year. And this year is almost 0. So that is the strength of patrolling, okay? And the result is, as you can see, camera trap shows that mother with 3 cubs. You know, so we can see that the critical endangered tiger, once you protect the habitat, once they have enough food, they can breed, okay? If it goes for the tiger, it goes for the other species also within Royal Bloom. But the story of the Menrak is more than just going patrolling. The story of Menrak is empowering and also giving the buy-in to the local community to actually protect. So there is a special element into developing these unique patrol capabilities, and that is to embed the conservation and wildlife protection into the community. Every time the Menrak goes out for patrolling, they earn an allowance. Okay, they are fully insured. They go for. They have an. They are fully trained, and they go for patrolling. So on average, they will make about 800 to 1,000 ringgit every time they go patrolling, and they only patrol 10 days, maximum 14 days. But the unique proposition in this. In this, so that the community will buy in, every single one that goes patrolling, every day they contribute 10 ringgit to their community. So meaning, if I go patrolling 10 days, my community, not from my pay, but from another fund, I give 10 ringgit a day to my community, meaning 10 days, the community gets 100 ringgit. We have 21 Menrak. So the community gets 2,100 ringgit minimum per month. So when they go patrolling, they're not only trying to earn for themselves, but at the back of their head is, I am supporting my community. Every time I go to work, I support my community. For a village that has only about less than 20 households, 2,100 ringgit a month goes a long way for their basic necessities, rice, cooking oil, and salt and stuff like that. But the more important thing is, these Menrak, they come from the village. They are trained. They are trained on conservation. And when they go on patrolling, they come back. They live in their village. So when they leave, they come back to their village. They are asked to spread the news of why their work is important, why patrolling is important. And we also set a lot of community programs talking about the work of the Menrak. So we have our Tiger Day, we have community, watch community movies about wildlife, and bring the kids down to do camera traps and making them embrace the work of the Mandrak. So what happens is that we see after 1.5...
5 more minutes.
Yeah, I'm about to finish, Ibit. So after 1.5 years, you can actually see the whole village embracing wildlife protection, because they see that their Mandrak brothers as the hero of their village. You know, so they do their work, they earn money for themselves, they protect the wildlife, and they contribute to the village fund. And they come back, they engage themselves with the children, and the village folks talk to them about why their work is important. And at the end of the day, after about a year, the whole village is into wildlife protection. And the kids aspire to be Mandraks when they grow up. You know, they're the heroes of the village. And besides that, the Mandraks are developed to be leaders in their community. So every time we have food aid, every time we have food collection, we let the Mandrak distribute the food. They go to other villages, you know, taking over social responsibility to other villages, giving food, giving aid, talk about wildlife protection. And in the long run, they will be the ambassadors into protecting our wildlife. We don't need people from the outside. We don't even need the state park to talk about the importance of wildlife patrolling or wildlife conservation, because they themselves will be the ambassadors to promote wildlife protection and conservation. Finally, in Royal Bloom State Park, we place all our projects to the UN SDGs, and at different levels, we have managed to hit 11 out of the 17 SDGs. So with that, I thank you very much. Thanks, Ipin.
In good time, Mr. Shareza. Thank you so much for your interesting presentation. I'd just like to highlight to the audience that Mr. Shareza was recently awarded the 2020 Global Winner of the Dr. Remington Award for Tiger Conservation by WWF Tiger Alive Initiative Committee in the United Kingdom. So congratulations to you, Shar.
Thank you, Ipin. And I must say, Dr. Ipin does good elephant work in Royal and Bloom Temanggo landscape.
Maybe next time we can share about that. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay.
Am I here for Q&A? No.
We'll move the questions towards the end. Right now, we'll finish the presentation first. So I'd like to invite our last speaker of the day, Mr. Salam Rajesh. Mr. Salam Rajesh is based in Imphal, Manipur, India. He's involved with the indigenous people and local communities and working towards people's proactive participation in protection and conservation of water bodies and community-controlled and managed forests. Since 1996, he has been involved with the fishing community at Loktak Lake, a Ramsar site, and Pumen Lake since 2018 to address conservation issues, livelihoods, and concerns on wildlife. Since the past 2 decades, he has worked with ethnic tribes in Manipur, advocating for the conservation of forest lands and protection of the wildlife. He's the member of the State Wildlife Board, Manipur, Technical Committee, Manipur State Wetlands Authority, IUCN, Commission on Environmental, Economic and Social Policy, and an honorary member of the ICCA Consortium. So over to you, Mr. Salim Rajesh Singh.
Thank you. Can you? Yeah. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to be present in this symposium. Actually, I am a much more of a field practitioner and not more of a field scientist. So in my presentation, because limitation of time, I'm just not going into the details. I'm trying to present 3 case studies where I have worked for some time. Next slide, please. So I'm showing here 3 case studies. First one is talking about forest regeneration, natural regeneration, and security and water security. And my second case study, I'll be talking about biodiversity conservation. And my third presentation will be again on natural regeneration plus securing and spring water rejuvenation. So in my first case study, so these are all empirical, and what I'm trying to show you is from the field itself. So here I'm talking about a village called Khampi. This is in Uttarakhand district. This is just next to Myanmar, where I'm located. Manipur is just next to Myanmar, and we are in this very important biodiversity area. You all know that Northeast India is included in the Indo-Burma biodiversity hotspot zone. So basically, when we work in field, we are always keeping biodiversity in place. Whatever. Next slide, please. What I'm trying to show here is, in my first slide, there was a hill range in the background. So in around 1996, and before that, this hill range was completely barren because local community has chopped down all the trees for their domestic needs. And because of that, around 1996, they had a problem of water scarcity. The spring had dried up, and the village had this problem of there was no water left there in this hill range. There are about 3 spring heads, and all of this dried up. And so there was a point of time when the village decided to shift to another location. But then the elders of the community came up with a suggestion that we will not move out. This is our traditional territory, indigenous territory, and we'll find a solution to the problem. And the solution is that we'll not touch this hill range. It's about 8 kilometers into 2 kilometer area. So according to the customary tradition, they formed several rules and regulations. And one of the rules was that they'll protect this forest and nobody will be allowed to cut the trees from here. So in a time period of about 10 years, you see these trees coming up here. This is all natural regeneration. There has been no plantation. Next slide, please. As a result of this natural growth of the forest, regrowth of the forest, the water spring rejuvenated, became alive again, and the village secured their water needs. But according to the rules and regulation, what the local community has done is nobody is allowed to go inside the forest and take water from the spring head. What they have done is they have made these water tanks outside of the forest area, protected forest area, because now this 8 kilometer to 2 kilometer area of forest protected under the tribal community law. So villages community are allowed to take water from this tank outside of the protected area. Nobody is allowed to go inside. Next slide, please. In my second case, I'm talking about another village called Dailong. This is in western part of Manipur, bordering Assam state. On the top picture, you see the green mountain range. That entire mountain range is now protected by the village community. And it's a very tropical primary rainforest. And as an initiative of the protection of this rainforest area, local community has come up with this idea of converting into a biodiversity heritage site. And with the support of our local forest department, they have managed to declare an area of around 11.5 2 square kilometer as a protected forest, protected by the community, supported by the forest department. And now it's the first biodiversity heritage site jointly managed by community and forest in Manipur. Next slide, please. So in this second case study, focus is more on biodiversity conservation. Whatever is there, original tree species, birds, flowers, plants, fruits, whatever you are seeing here is just some sample of the biodiversity we are trying to conserve in this Dailong biodiversity heritage site. Next slide. So just a few slides where I'm trying to show that we have done intensive interaction with the local community. And in the bottom slide, you see forest officials also coming to the village and speaking to the local community about conservation of forest, management of forest, and protection and conservation of species. There are some endemic species of flora and fauna in this area also. It's a very biodiverse area. Next slide, please. In my third case study, this is a village area to the south of Manipur. It's called Jakulung village, Churantapur district. So, story with this is slightly similar to my first case study, where you are seeing this entire hill range was completely burial before 1990. It was completely burial. There was nothing, no grass was there, no trees was there. It was completely deforested by local community for firewood, timber logging, and everything. So the again here also they had this issue of water security. So the village community came up with this idea that they have to come out and manage this forest, this hill range by themselves, so that they get back the forest from where they got their food earlier. They have to get back the forest again because they need the water to survive. So next slide, please. So basically, some of us were walking here in this hill range, and village community has also got some support from government agencies. We have a government department called Loktak Development Authority, because this hill range is the western catchment of the Loktak Lake, the Ramsar site. So as a part of conservation of the catchment, Manipur government also helped the community by providing some incentives for tree plantation. Like you are seeing in this photograph on the right side. This is an attempt by the community to rejuvenate the spring heads. We are not using any material like stone and all those iron. We are using locally available material, which is basically wood and bamboo. And like on the right hand side, you are seeing the slide where we are having the bamboo barricade. With these barricades and earthen fill dams, these water bodies are being created. So in this hill range, community has created more than 5-6 of these water bodies. And 1 year, 2 years after these water bodies were created, we saw this regeneration of forests again. In the lower photograph, you see the trees coming up where once it was totally barren. So after forest started regenerating, we saw the wildlife started coming back again. Next slide, please. Here you are seeing in the above photograph, this water body was created along a hill or along the course of a hill stream. We had met a earthen barricade at one end of the hill stream. And after when the monsoon arrived, this area began to fill with water, and it developed into this water body. And so when the water was there, the trees started regenerating. All the trees you are seeing in the background are not planted. They are all natural regenerated. And in the lower photograph, you see that as a result of the spring water rejuvenation in the upper catchment, you see the hill stream coming down with a lot of water. I have not shown a photograph here where earlier you could see that this hill stream is almost dry because above the upland, in the upland area, there was nothing more trees and no forest there. The water stream was almost dead, so the hill stream was almost dead. So this is the composition where you see the community, how they have to involve to not only regenerate the forest, but recreate water bodies to regain the water they need for everything, for the agriculture, for domestic needs. So, next slide. Okay, then I'm going very fast because of time limit. So that's coming to a conclusion. This photograph actually it's in another location. It's in southeastern part of Manipur, where local community have conserved this forest area. Again, basically of securing the water spring head. Because water in Manipur, although we are in a monsoon belt, we are having water scarcity. People in urban area, we are buying water for our need. It's very ironic. Even though we are in a monsoon belt, we have to buy water to drink. So in this hill area, like the village next to this wooded area, they are having water 24 hours into 365 days. Whether there is rain or no rain, this communities are having water all the time because they have conserved the water, spring heads, good forest is there, wildlife is there. And just concluding, I like to add that the style of the system of management of this forest area is according to the tribal customary law. I'd like to say that in a region like Manipur, in Northeast India, many of the states are community owned, land are community owned. In places like Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Nagaland, Manipur, a large percentage of the land are owned by the community. It is not owned by the state. So where community is there, indigenous people and local community is there, these lands are governed according to the tribal customary law. And this in our place, tribal customary law is very much strong and very much alive. So when I work with the community, I try to enforce this community laws, customary laws. So according to the customary law, if you say that this area, this 11.2 square kilometer area is protected, it means it's protected. Nobody is allowed to go inside and cut any tree. Nobody is allowed to go in there and hunt. So our customary law, tribal customary law is very strong, and it's a very good mechanism for conservation of forest and water. Thank you. I can add.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salam Rajesh Singh. Interesting case study. And you've shown a very clear link between the importance of protecting forests and for water source, for the villagers. So we have come to the end of the presentation. Thank you so much to all the presenters. Let's give them a big round of applause. Well done for all your presentations. And let's open up for the panel discussion. And let's continue from where Mr. Salam Rajesh Singh ended on community customary laws and how we can use that for conservation. Perhaps this is a question we can open to all members on the panel. How can we, work with community and utilize existing laws, customary laws, or even formal legislative laws for conservation. Perhaps Mr. Salam Rajis, would you like to elaborate a bit more? Yeah, from your case study.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. In another aspect, I would say that there are lots of conflict of interest in our region. There are a lot of conflicts between community and government, because government always trying to bring in development projects, project of highway expansion, railway lines, then hydro projects, which this development projects come into land which are owned by the indigenous people. So what is happening is that, because I'm involved with many of these ethnic tribes and all, what is happening that when government comes up with a project, the usual method is that there is no prior consultation. There is no prior consultation with the community. The projects are just dropped top down to the community. And so when the project is coming, then normally, usually communities are very much concerned about their territory, about their land, and there are objections. So in my association with the community in the past 10 to 20 years, there has been a lot of fighting between community and state. And one very fortunate thing for us is that when protecting our forest, because we are about 90% of Manipur is hill area, mountainous area, and this mountain area is settled by ethnic tribes. So, according to
Mr. Salam.
So according to law, government just cannot enter into the indigenous land and do whatever they want. They have to get the consent of the indigenous people first. So, because our customary law is alive and kicking, it's very strong that we take a decision whether this project is feasible for us or not. If the community feels that this project is not feasible for the community, it's going to destroy our forest and it's going to impact upon us, then the community will take a decision that no to this project. And if they say no, then government just cannot bulldoze through. What is happening with Manipur, Mizoram, Arunachal is that we use our customary law to good effect in protecting our forest, our wildlife.
So on that note, yes, you have shown a clear link, between forest and water, and you mentioned that, and even during the monsoon time, there is water scarcity. I was about to ask. There's a question here: is that is it easy for you to convince the community to join your project because of that link between forests and water resource? And how about for projects where the community have water all year long? How then would you encourage them or push for forest conservation and reforestation?
No, it's not always easy to convince the community to come up. You take time to convince the community. In my three slides now, where I've associated with the community, in the third slide. That case study, I took 2 years to convince the community that you have to come up yourself and protect this forest area. Nobody will come and do conservation for you, or you have to protect your land, you have to regenerate your land. They were not understanding the importance of natural regeneration linked to water rejuvenation, spring rejuvenation and all. So it takes time. In my third case study, I took almost 2 years to just convince them. So
okay. So on that note, I'd like to open this session to other panelists. Would you like to share your experience about working with community? Yes, I see Mr. Shahriza has his hands up. Yeah.
I just like to put in one question to Parvez.
You have a question, Mr. Salam?
Yes, just because Parvez, you are talking about eucalyptus. But eucalyptus in our region is seen as an exotic and a very troublesome species. Because of eucalyptus, we are having issues with shrinkage of groundwater. Then where eucalyptus are planted on the roadside, all the roads are, you see all the roads are breaking up because of eucalyptus. So eucalyptus is a problem in it.
Okay, Mr. Salam, I'll keep that questions to a bit later. We'll come back to Mr. Parvez Manan. So let's let Mr. Shahriza share his experience about working in the community. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ipin. Just a short one. I totally agree with Mr. Salam just now that working with community takes time. There is no way that you can get the community buy-in in a short time. You have to constantly engage with them. And the best way is actually to go into the traditions, you know, to understand the traditions of the indigenous community that relates to environmental or conservation. They have so many stories, so many practices within their community that is actually to look after and protect our ecology.
Oh, we lost you a bit. Mr. Shahriza, are you still there?
And then suddenly they see that, yes, our forefathers has been doing this, and they are doing this to protect and conserve the sites. But the other point that I wanted to highlight is conservation cannot start with an empty stomach. You know, if the community is poor and the community does not have sustainable livelihood, and then there's no point talking conservation with them, because they will be too focused on how to feed themselves, their family. For any conservation, any projects that's related to the community must have livelihood, must have an income element to them. You start with the livelihood, you start with them having income. That is where they buy in. But once you embed the conservation issues within the work that they do while they're earning income, then you realize that, and then they will realize later that the income is secondary. The work is important. So you can't go in, talk about high value conservation, talk about high level conservation and whatnot when they are hungry and they don't have food. So it is an important element to have the livelihood tied to the projects so that they buy into it, and later on, over time, when they start doing the work, they understand the conservation value and they buy in and embed it into themselves and into their community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shahriza. Okay, let's go back to Mr. Parvez Manan. So just now, Mr. Salam has a question for you regarding the impact of eucalyptus on the ecosystem, in terms of water shortage or affecting the roads and things like that. Would you like to comment on that, Mr. Parvez?
Yes, I would like to comment. Mr. Salam, it's true that in the Indian subcontinent, Pakistan, India, eucalyptus, it's a burning issue now. The water crisis issue that has been highlighted by the environmentalists and the civil societies particularly, and other issues. One thing I will clarify that none of a species as bad, but especially for tree species, site selection and species suitable to a particular site is the basic objective. Initially, throughout India and Pakistan, the eucalyptus was introduced without a proper site suitability analysis. I think it is a dilemma. So maybe in certain areas that water issue, water scarcity issue, it may have caused. Particularly in the case of Pakistan, the hue and cry from here and there is very common, but a specific research is lacking on that site. Whereas planting along the roads, along the buildings, or other areas, it is not advisable because its roots have roots are mostly move horizontally. So it can damage the roads. It can damage the foundation of buildings. It can cause blockage of sewage system, etc. So these are some issues which should be considered while planting eucalyptus. I think your question.
Yes, you answered the question very well, Mr. Pervezman. Yes, thank you. So let's move on to questions for the Dr. Indika and Ms. Manisha. Yeah, regarding their work with the community with leprosy in Sinhala Raja Forest. The question is, would you consider work in the tea plantation and ketul palm plantations to be labor intensive or require high physical mobility? Can the leprosy community cope with the plantation job requirements? We cannot hear you. Manisha, yes.
Actually, ma'am, in tea plantation, it is a very labor intensive. When we start the tea, we need small labor. So I think then they have some job opportunity as the tea plucker, and also there are so many cultural practices on the tea farm. So I think then they can move to the tea plantation. Then when talk about ketul packing, only they can work as a tapper. So only men, the woman can't attend to that ketul packing. And I think tea plantation is a good job opportunity for that people who has leprosy, because some people don't like that people to give job opportunity. So I think it is a best one.
Okay, so it's not very heavy, and it's actually providing them with good job opportunities.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Ms. Manisha. Okay. Yes, we don't have Mr. Joel here. Okay, I'll move on to a question for Dr. Huda. Yes, was it challenging for the local communities to start Sahabat Alam Tampe and manage the recreation activities in the waterfall by themselves? Dr. Huda? Sorry, we cannot hear you. Yes.
Dr. Ethan, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, because it's a stable connection here. I'm very sorry. So for the questions on the Okay, can you repeat the last sentence for the questions? Because I can't get you just now because of the technical error.
Let me repeat the question, no problem. Was it challenging for the local communities to start Sahabat Alam Tampik and manage the recreational activities at the waterfalls by themselves?
Okay, every local community or every different places of tourists managed by the community has a different challenging, and because their practices different local technique. So in this case, we are glad because before the actual grant we received in 2018, the actually FRIM has already established the networking starting from 2016 from the International Timber ITTO project. So along that, with a long trust networking and back-to-back series discussion and also the meetings from the local community, before that they are not just a local community, they show their commitment, their positive attitude to maintain their sites. So as other way, we also direct them to the main achievement, to the main mission that not only we are preserve the area, but we want also they gain something to be as a win-win situation. So it is honestly to say, it is challenging, but because of the commitment and also the trust they put to us, and we put trust to them, and also with the commitment from the forestry department, from the tourism agencies, and also from the chairperson, for the chairman from the local committee itself. So they show a very good networking after that. But for me, honestly, it's not took a very long period to get their trust. We just like make it them as a friend, a very good relationship, so that will handle or will create no barrier between the agencies and also the local community. We just follow their traditions. We just respect their own nature and routine, so that they trust us, so that they very understand about what we want them to achieve, what they also want to achieve on the future. So that's really interesting in this project.
Thank you so much, Dr. Huda, for your answer. Okay, next I would like to move to Mr. Shahriza. We have quite a number of questions for you, so I'm wondering if I can squeeze in 2 questions for you at one go.
Okay.
The first question is, are there plans to replicate Munra at other localities? This is from Suraj. And the second question is, how long allowances to the Munra patrollers will be paid? Will the state be expected to continue paying for the allowances if the fund dried up? This is from Mr. Ainuddin from UPM.
Okay, so question number 1 for Suraj, I saw her question. Actually, this is a model that the state park embarked on as proof of concept that it can work. Okay. Our main aim is actually to replicate this outside the state parks, where areas of indigenous people are close to the forest, but there are no rangers, wildlife rangers or administrative body that can actually manage those areas. The question is twofold. Number 1 is, how do you train them? Who is going to train them? So because the training takes, the training is quite intensive, and once they are trained, they need to go in with experienced rangers first. Number 2, the orang asli do not have enforcement powers, meaning they cannot arrest people. You have to have authority of arrest, either in state parks, my rangers, or in other forest areas, the forest rangers or the wildlife rangers. You know, even if you can do citizen arrest, but that is very messy, another messy way of arresting people, and it can be very dangerous. So the point of the team is actually to look for, number 1, encroachments and be a backup two authorities to come in. Okay. Usually, when the areas are patrolled, the poachers will stay away. They will come in because they can be kings in the area. Nobody is around for them to stop or spot the illegal work. But once an area is constantly patrolled, either by formal rangers or by the community, and every time they set up snares and traps, these snares and traps are destroyed and dismantled. They will move to other areas, or they will just give up. So in these areas, the Mendrak or the Asli patrollers are a backup, because we would not have the kind of resource to manage all the forests in the country. No agency is able to do that. So we need to engage the local community. For any sustainable protection work or conservation work to be successful long term, local communities must get involved. If not, rangers, people come in and out, researchers come in and out, but local communities stay. So you have to build you have to empower them, you have to give them the confidence and the incentive to actually do it on behalf of conservation and protection. The question about how the money is going to last. For everybody's information, the Mendrak is not funded by the state government. The program is run, they're trained and coordinated by us, but the entire funding for the project is through our partner, NGO Rimau. Rimau is a Malaysian-based NGO that looks after tiger protection. This is where collaborative ecosystem comes in. No one agency, not even the government, is able to undertake projects on their own. It must be collaborative. So this is where partnering the right partners, whether they be NGOs, they be corporates, they be government agencies, must be in. The days where you work in silos and government alone pay for everything is over. This is the time for collaborative ecosystem to exist. And we have done this. And we hope to be able to replicate this and share our experience as much as possible. There is a possibility. It's all about resource allocation and resourcing resource from outside. Okay, you'll be surprised. A lot of people will want to support you if you have the right formula, a proven concept, and even if you look at the SDGs, SDG 17 is partnership. Okay, if you look at SDG 17 is partnership. Partnership is the difference whether your project is going to work or not. So you have to be creative, you have to be innovative, and you have to be open for partners to come in to make your project successful. Thanks, Ipin.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Shareza. Yes, the responsibility lies with everyone, yeah, not just one entity. It's all of us, we have a responsibility towards wildlife conservation. Okay, let's move on to the next question. For Mr. Salam Rajesh Singh, there's one question for you on what is the level of community participation in forest management based on your study sites or in India in the context of state legislations? Oh, we cannot hear you, Mr. Salam Rajesh Singh.
Sorry. You can hear me now.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Actually, conservation of forests and management of forests, when you're talking about that, in many parts of Northeast India, the actual participation of local community in conservation and management of forests is very minimum at the moment. Because what is happening is that in Northeast India, Jhum culture, tradition slash and burn, is traditional. It's a part of the community life, and we have some ethnic communities who practically don't have sense of conservation. They go in for slash and burn randomly. They will not think about of conservation in any form. They'll just cut down trees. So in this case, talking about conservation of forest, management, protection of forest, is very tough talking with them. On the other hand, we have some communities who, according to their tradition, they are very closely connected with forest. And in the traditional practice, they have this customary practice that if you cut a tree, you have to plant 2 more trees. So with this second group of community, where you have this sense of conservation, it's very not difficult to go in and talk to them. It takes less time to convince them, talk to them, make them understand of forest conservation, because they have all this their traditional practice. But in this second group, in this first group of ethnic community, this first group of community are basically they have migrated from western part of Myanmar. They belong to the Chin Kuki group, and they are more or less semi-nomadic in their way of living. So they move from one place to another, and wherever they are moved, they are all removing the forest. Wherever they are, all these are cut down for domestic needs, for selling the timber for their livelihoods and all. So where the South community is there, the Chin Kuki group is there, you find the hill completely set of the cover. On the other hand, we have this traditional ethnic communities like Tangkhul and Mao, where conservation is in their blood. So we have 2 very contrasting groups of ethnic communities. One is lineage to traditional way of conservation of forest, and one group who don't have any consideration of forest conservation management. So when we go down to the field, we have to understand how these 2 groups of ethnic communities function. And our method of approaching them is also very different. So, like I was saying, it's very difficult to go in and talk to the community like that.
I understand, Mr. Salam Rajising. Yeah, it's challenging, but rewarding at the end of the day. Yeah. Thank you so much for your sharing. Yes. Okay, so we are running out of time. I would like to pass the session back to Vanessa. Before that, a big round of applause to for all the speakers for today. Thank you so much for your sessions. Thank you. And over to you, Vanessa.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Wong, for chairing the session. You were amazing. And of course, a big thanks to all our speakers and also our participants. I understand there were a lot more questions, but if we have not been able to address them live, we are going to get in touch with you via email. So don't worry, we'll definitely answer your questions. I mean, these speakers today, they are really, really they're really challenging. They really want to make things change. So I'm so amazed. I'm really amazed at all the hard work and all the success stories. And I really pray that, the formulas are adopted and shared further so that we can all come together and protect more of our natural heritage. So you know what? This concludes the 4th session, but it is not the end of this topic. Do join me at 5 p.m. I'm saying 5 p.m. is just only an hour away as we continue on the topic of community-based forest protected areas management and livelihoods improvement with another panel of speakers. Now go get yourself a fresh cup of coffee and some snacks, and I will see you again at 5 p.m.